Yo, 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 what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Swish for Real. It's your boy, Big Mike, in the building, and our esteemed guest. Always good to see you, Wild Dog. How you living, man?
Hey, another blessed day, brother. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, always, always. How was your week, man? How things going on your side of the world, man?
Oh man, it's like, dude, trying to keep up with my teenager brother. You know what I'm saying? you know, it's like I look one way, he's getting recognized in spring football, training camp, and I look the other way, then he's getting elected to the student government for
Nice.
basically high school going into next year. And I'm like, okay, man, let's celebrate. And he's like, well, wait, Dad, we had, the awards ceremony. I was like, well, why don't you let me know? He's like, it's the same regular stuff, Dad. I'm like, well, what's regular stuff? He goes, well, I got high honor roll, I got the principal's award, I got the district, superintendent award, I got the president's award. I'm like, so another clean sweep. I'm like, I'm glad you can be so casual about it, but as your dad, that will never get old, you know.
Yeah,
So
I ain't mad at you. And
yes, sir.
speaking of teenagers, we're gonna talk about first is Bronny James, the son of the esteemed LeBron James.
Yes,
He's
sir.
actually selected himself, well, put himself into the NBA draft. He's still eligible for college, but he is leaving USC and trying to take his talents to the NBA. So we're going to start there with the conversation. Do you think he's going to be drafted in the first round, or is he going to drop to the second round? And what is his potential as a rookie if he does get drafted?
Right. Well, look. First off, if you don't mind, I mean, I know he comes from a billionaire's family, so they billionaires. So, but my principle is like, you go to college, the college is using you for their promotion, their athletics and promotion, development of their institution. Then you in turn use the institution to your benefit, right? Which now is better than ever, like we talked about with getting your degree,
Mm-hmm.
getting your master's degree. Collectives play pretty good for basketball, especially. And then his exposure, who he is, NIL deals. You can
Mm-hmm.
get paid pretty well for a young person, you know, being a Division One, especially basketball player. So, but again, I know he comes from a billionaire family. But with that being said, I just feel like this is premature. I feel like this is Dillingham's draft, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
then maybe because there's so much room, no insult to anybody else, but then maybe because there's so much room, maybe the timing is now, you know, So someone like Bronny James, I mean, if it was me, I'd be like, can I hold out to the second round? No insult, but just the name on the back of the jersey alone, you know, think about being a CFO of a team, right? That's gonna be your guy. you know what I'm saying? That's gonna be your guy. So he won't. I mean, maybe mid to late first, you know, because of the name on the back of the jersey, and that's been and will continue to be money. You
So
know,
you think he's going to make the first round? I don't think he's going to even make the first round. Who's going to? Well, I get what you're saying.
those
The
small market. Yeah,
the
I'm sorry.
aspect of having that kind of name brand, and then plus whoever the rumor is that wherever he goes, his dad's going to follow so he can play with his son. I don't see anyone really pulling for him in the first round. I don't think he's going to make the first round, but I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, I could. I mean, I haven't done a whole in depth yet, but I mean, but following enough and looking at it enough, it's like some of the better players are long in the tooth by NBA standards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, some of the younger players like Bronny and Dillingham coming out, um, they're good, decent players, but they're not they're not what I would consider elite. You know, I would
Right.
consider them elite, Big Mike. So I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, I feel like it's premature for him to come out so soon, but then on the other hand, I'm like, this could be perfect timing because the draft is a little bit soft. Even where you have the better quality players, they're older and longer in the tooth. You know, like look at Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Ant-Man's class is just coming in.
Right.
You know, while they were still playing in college, he's been, what I'm saying?
So with him being 6'2", he's not a point guard. That's typically a point guard position. 6'2". There's some few shooting guards that played that position pretty well. If you think of Allen Iverson, he was 6'1". I don't see how he can play point guard in that in this day and age as far as the league goes.
I really think it's just going to come down to like quickness, agility, and then that IQ, the intelligence. And I think he's really been brought up to make the smart, right basketball decisions. And when I've seen him play, and in the tapes I review, that seems like that's what he's all about, is being able to facilitate and do the right things at the right time and give his team what they need at the right time and flowing in that mode. And it's kind of a rare commodity. It's kind of a rare commodity. We get kind of get blinders on and what's this or what's the stat line, but he's a whole totally different animal, the kind of someone you could theoretically build around. Now there's a risk involved in that because you're not seeing all the stats and the bread and butter that you used to liking to have. You liking to have all this and then running with it. There's a certain degree of trust and familiarity you got to have with someone like this to build around him. So no matter who you put around Bronny James, he's the type of player to adapt and make it work, to optimize whatever it is we got on the floor at any given time. He's always thinking about how to maximize the situation, what I need to do, how I can get them to do more, what they can do. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, but coming in as a rookie, I don't think he has that capability to lead a team in that perspective. I think he's going to have a long way to go because his skill set is not there, in my opinion. He's not even a highlight reel. He's just, to me, a below average player when it comes to NBA standards.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a smack in the mouth, welcome to the NBA kind of situation. And so that's why I'm thinking, like, with the timing of it and the small markets and teams, kind of, building up in a rebuild, putting together a young team, this is where someone like him can help really solidify a foundation. You know what I mean? Then you bring in what pieces you have and you bring it into the pieces, kind of like to me, he's kind of like a chameleon. He's not giving you the meat here or there, but at any given time, I feel like he could give you 25 points if that's really expect from him.
In the NBA?
Yeah. Not as a rookie. Not as a rookie, though. Let me clarify. Not as a rookie.
So let's put it to this perspective.
I don't feel like he's not gonna flip anybody's record. You're not gonna go from 20-40 to 40-20 with Bronny James.
Right.
Yeah.
So they got him listed at 6'2", and some places they have him listed at 6'4". Who knows his real height? I'm gonna say in between, maybe 6'3", but he averaged about 10 points at USC. He wasn't really balling like that. You know what I mean? So I think and I'm gonna give you this question: how many years do you think it's gonna take for him to even start averaging about 20 points a game?
Oh, in today's NBA, I mean, a lot of times to be able to score those kind of points, you need that fifth year turn. You need 3 years to really get comfortable and confident in your game and what you can contribute. But to really turn up the next notch, if you have that next notch, you need year 5. And then year 7 to really peak in today's game.
So I'm looking at his stats, and they're saying that he averaged 4.8 points a game, and that's in 1 year. But he was had 19 steals, and that's ranked 57th in all NCAA, and he had 5 blocks, and that's 71st in NCAA. But and that's just kind of hollow stats. You know what I mean? That's not really saying much.
But we're talking about USC and the Pac-12 or the former Pac-12.
Nah, facts, man. I mean, I wish the young man a lot of luck. Not trying to hate on him or anything, but I just don't see where he'll be in 5 years. With his dad being his mentor and dad at the same time, it may just push him to a point where he was averaging about
Yeah,
15 points a game. But I don't think he's going to get to where he's going
yeah.
to be doing 25, and it's going to take a long time for him to even get to that point. And he has to
But
put a lot of work in. Not saying he won't have that type of
yeah,
mindset to work hard, because if he's anything like his dad, he will be a work hard. But I don't think he's going to be averaging 25 points.
but to backtrack a little bit, like LeBron said, Bronny's a grown man. He make good decisions, and you support the direction he wants to go. But USC would not have been my choice. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then and then you know, and then coming out at this point would not have been my personal recommendation. And so
Yeah.
it's like you're, the NBA believes in development. So you can come in, get drafted, and rather him spending his time at USC or any other Division I school, he could be over in the G League. You know,
Yeah. I
you
think
know,
that's where he's going to probably be playing most of
you
his
see what I'm saying?
first few years.
So it's a matter of, do I really need to be here? Where do I want to go? And so it's like, rather than going to Ignite, it's like, okay, let me go to USC, stay a little bit close to home, and then put in whatever time here, and then go ahead and enter the draft and get better facilities and development, with the NBA, which that
Gotcha.
being G League and NBA, it really being having its own farm system now, full farm system. You can really come into the league and develop from there.
Gotcha. So, keeping on the subject of guards, we're going to move toward our next subject, and this is Jalen Brunson. The guy did his thing in Dallas. I was a big fan of his, especially in that Phoenix playoff game. He showed that he can really lead a team. Him and Luka Doncic did that thing, even when Luka got missed one game, and Bronson showed up and showed him that, hey, I'm just as good as anybody out here.
Hey,
So his new his new team with the New York Knicks, he's been there for 2 years now. Well, his first year, right? This is his first year in the Knicks, right?
yeah, first full year, yeah, first full
Yeah,
year.
yeah. So his first full year with the New York Knicks, he showed them that they got a good deal with him being their key player. Now I'm asking you this question. This is a two-part question. Is he the new face of the New York Knicks? And how good can he be as far as career wise? Can he keep up this pace? Because he's doing his thing. So answer that first question. Is he the new face of the New York Knicks?
Now, Big Mike, I don't want to cheat your question, but I'm going to say he's the new face for the time being, right?
Mm,
For the time being, that's anything less than 5 years, like his next contract would be what? I was trying to see what it might be, but the length of what, 2 years in an option or 3 years in an option or two, you know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
So that's really like the face for now. But what I did notice is that the Knicks don't have a high draft pick for this coming year, right? Matter of fact, they're at the 24th pick for 2024. So unless they do some dramatic, trade up and go for Dillingham, I mean, like, no. And then your age chemistry is all off whack. So I think the Knicks are making moves for him to be the face more long term, more than 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because I noticed something else. The Knicks picked up his buddies from Villanova,
Yep.
Dante, Josh, and Ryan. So the guys he flowed and clicked with at Villanova, they brought him in house. So the Knicks are investing. So from the Knicks in, they're making it very comfortable for him, and they've made it where he can fully cut loose and not hold back. So I felt like with the Mavericks, he was throttling back a bit until like you said, that game when Luka was completely out of the picture, and it was like, okay, come on, guys, you know what I'm saying? Put everybody on your back and carry them. So, but again, I'm just like, what is Brunson the man? What does Jalen Brunson want? What is he really gonna do?
Right.
Trying to read someone's mind. So the team can do everything they can do, but then where does that leave Brunson himself? So I feel from the franchise standpoint, they're trying to create an environment and make moves to prepare him to be a franchise player. We're talking 10 plus years.
Gotcha. So how good is he? Is he like worth the dollar that they're spending on him? Could he get better, or is he has reached his plateau?
For me, I got him right behind SGA and Luka. And then I thought, what about the ball hog over in Boston? I thought, and then I said, okay, the data won't lie to me, right? So then I go look at the data to help me. You know what I'm saying? And so I look at the data to help me, and his player efficiency rating is, guess what? Right behind Luka and SGA. So, the old man eyes and my gut check in my heart wasn't lying to me. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I've got him. That's where I've got him is number 3. So the Knicks need to double down. The Knicks need to double down. They've been making the right moves to situate it. I just feel like, I don't know if they're waiting to see what this offseason is going to do, but what else have they had? And who else really wants to go up there to New York? In my opinion, I feel like the Knicks need to go ahead and double down and do it now,
So I had a conversation with a sports writer here in Dallas, and I'm not gonna say who he is. He's pretty famous, put it that way. And we were texting back and forth, and I told him, I said, the reason why the Knicks, in my opinion, put Brunson's dad on their staff, and this is why Brunson was still a Maverick, is because they're gonna probably go after Brunson. And he was like, "No, this ain't college. This is not how this goes." And I'm like, "Okay." So lo and behold, what happened? His dad's there, and now he's there. I'm not gonna say the guy's name because I don't want to put him on blast. He's a real good guy, but I
we had talked about that before. How they had his father over there already, and I had a note about his dad, but I know we talked about that before, and then leave a little meat on the bones. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm glad you went right after, because I'm like, you've done all this, double down. Knicks, just double down.
Nah, facts. So, but again, do you think he's plateaued right now, or he can get better? I mean, what does he need to improve on? In my opinion, I think he needs to improve on his assist ratio, but scoring is not a downside to him. He can do that, but defensively, he's not the greatest. But I think he can improve there as well as his assist totals. Do you think he can plateau more?
But again, sometimes as organizations, we get blinders on what a player is capable of, and then, like I said before, Big Mike, a lot of times it comes down to, what are you asking the player to do? What have you said to them? We need this from you, or what have you said that, what are we expecting from them? And when they give that to you, you can't then say, well, I need you to be up. I need you to be Scottie Pippen on both sides of the floor or something, but if I'm delivering exactly what you asked for me to do, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, give the man his flowers. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Because I've seen games where he's given, hadn't scored so much. I'm like, a scoring game is off. Well, then last week you was talking about him distributing the ball, or how him and Luka gonna get along together on the floor together. It's like, I've seen him do double-digit dimes and single-digit scores. It's like, well, Brunson had an off-scoring night. Well, no, he didn't. His job was to what? Facilitate, focus more on getting the ball to Luka, or getting the ball kicked out to the open, for the open shooter. So that's where I kind of give and take with that, because stats can be a little bit misleading. So that's where you got to look into the coach, what kind of scheme they like to play, what kind of ball the team likes to play, head coach like to play, and what is the player being asked to do, and then is he delivering that, and that's like like my man Wilt Chamberlain. It's like, oh, he's a ball hog, this and that, blah blah, and then the next season Wilt was like, okay, I'll show you. Then he led the whole league in assists. I'm not saying he's Wilt Chamberlain, but I'm going back to the history, and the data doesn't lie. You got players who are capable of so much more, but it's like, if we got a lid on the basket, we need to get the ball in the ball in the hole. Okay, coach, I got you. You need me to score 20. You know, every now and then some guys can do that. They can give you, double. But if you ask me to score 25, 28 points or trying to verge on 30 points in a single game, then it's kind of a bit of a compromise. You know what I'm saying?
Got you.
Yeah.
So, speaking on giving a person their flowers, I really admired this Knicks guy we're going to talk about when he was in Purdue. He was like, yeah, man, he was like one of the most talented power forwards that I can remember, and he was like really a freak of nature in essence, and
Yes.
he could fill up
Yes.
the gym.
Yeah.
And who I'm talking about, man, is Glen, the big dog Robinson. And I let Wild Dog bark real quick.
Dude.
Man, he was a beast, man, especially when he played for the Bucks, man. He had some amazing in your face dunks, and just he was a power to be reckoned with, man.
Hey, but
What are
look
your
from that.
thoughts when you think about his career? Because he was, to me, I wish he would have went to Michigan, because that he would have been part of a great tandem of players. But
Yeah,
I can't have everything. But him
right,
playing
right.
in Purdue was not bad. But what are your thoughts on his career, and what kind of impression you got from just watching him play?
Man, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and so you know I heard about I've heard about him from my brother because he come out of Indiana, Gary, Indiana specifically. So Gary, Indiana, if it sounds familiar, that's because that's where Michael Jackson and the Jackson Five are from.
Yep.
And so man, so they refer to this man as the chosen one. You know what I'm saying? You know, which being Mr. Basketball in Indiana, win the state chips. You know what I'm saying? And but Big Dog is more appropriate because the speed, the agility, the strength. I mean, the strength. You know what I mean? Is just unparalleled. It's like, like you said, the power, right? But then the dexterity of a point guard. You know what I'm saying? Like when folks talk about, hey, the young Shaq taking it, up and down the floor, or Charles Barkley taking it up and down the floor. It's like, I mean, you a big man, you ain't got no business doing that. Why not? When I was little, I was a point guard, playing with all the big kids. So what, those skills didn't just vacate my body. You know what I'm saying? So as he grew taller and grew stronger, all those skills he maintained and carried those with him. And so, I mean, my goodness, and he's a college legend. NBA aside, he's a college legend, and it would be off the charts. Even you think, well, he was only at Purdue a short time. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? He put that much on tape, you know what I'm saying, in that short period of time. And if it hadn't been for Grant Hill and Duke, who knows what might have happened. Right?
Now, facts, because I remember watching him play, man. He was like one of the most exciting players I ever seen during that era. Um, I think with him being from Gary, Indiana, makes it a point to where there's some hoopers there. You know what I mean? He can bring the game to you, man. And when I compare him to any other player, he reminds me of Sean Kemp in essence. You know what I mean? But a Sean Kemp that could shoot, and he was
Right,
not
exactly.
bad at it. You know what I mean? And he could take it in the paint, and had phenomenal footwork, almost Elijah One-esque in some ways. But I
Dude,
can't
for
compare
real,
him to
like a
Elijah
hybrid.
One.
Like a hybrid, really. You were saying you were on point. Like you almost had to take 2 or 3 players and put them together. Be like, okay, Glen Robinson. You know, you know. And
Facts,
it's like,
man.
in college, they were like, "Is there anything this guy can't do?" And it's like, no, not technically, no. There's nothing he can't do. If you ask him to do it, he can do it. He'll deliver. And then that's why he was first round, first pick. You know what I'm saying?
Now,
And
for
that's
real.
why I think he still holds a record for rookie contract. Back in '94, I think the dude was asking for 100 mil. 100 mil.
Now, for real.
And he got 68 mil in 1994.
And the fact that he averaged 21, almost 22 points as a rookie tells a lot about his skill set, and that he
Yeah.
pretty much held on to that type of average all the way throughout his career.
And in my opinion, I mean, again, I think he got, I think he got kind of, I think he got gypped because if it wasn't for Grant Hill and the darling Jason Kidd, they end up sharing the Rookie of the Year. And
Yeah.
I remember still thinking like, how they share the votes, and you got Glen Robinson sitting over here, because he's not quite the darling, or he's over here in the small, what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was the number 1 draft pick in 1994.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, and he did a rookie record. I'm like, if y'all battling over Grant Hill and Jason Kidd, I'm like, oh, that's because they're the darlings of college. They're the darlings of the NBA, and that's politicking. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, that's Glen Robinson all day long, and I'm like, he finished 3rd? What?
Right. So here's the top 10 in that 94 draft class, and we're going to look at it real quick. You got Glen Robinson, number 1, Jason Kidd, number 2, who went to Dallas, Grant Hill, Detroit, Danielle Marshall. He was not bad coming out of Connecticut. He went to the Bulls. Juwan Howard went to the Washington Bullets.
Yeah.
Ron Wright, Lamont Murray, Brian Grant was good for Sacramento for many, many years. Eric Montross, he didn't do too bad when he was drafted by Boston. And coming in at number 10 for the LA Lakers was Eddie Jones. So he was not too bad of a draft class right there. I go down the list. There's quite a few good players in this list.
That's solid. We would love to have that this year. No disrespect. No disrespect. But, you got Dillingham and then a gap. You know what I mean?
Nah, for real, they had a great draft that year, and here's some key names I didn't mention. Jalen Rose was in that draft.
Yep.
And who else was in that draft? Aaron McKee.
But then you're talking about solid, strong journeymen. You know what I mean?
No, and Charlie Ward. Remember Charlie Ward?
Yes, I love Charlie Ward.
That was some good players in that draft.
I love bringing him up. Hey, we had somebody that chose basketball over football.
Fact.
Why would you do that? I'm like, we in Texas, so it's like, hey, look, back then, the basketball contracts are guaranteed. Our football contracts are guaranteed. Yeah, since when? Like recently? You know what I'm saying?
Nah, man. I was a big Charlie Ward fan because for football and college football, I always pull for Florida State. That was one of my favorite football teams to pull for.
But I mean, I knew too much back then, especially being a baseball fan, being a baseball player. It's like when somebody chose baseball or basketball, it's like, yes, they got a smart Kemp. Somebody told them right. Get that guaranteed money, get those long contracts. You know what I'm saying? Nah, unless you're Tom Brady, you're not playing no, you know what I'm saying? You're not playing no double-digit years. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, for real.
Yeah.
And speaking of great players coming out of good states, California, I mean, college basketball in California is pretty good. What are some of the most recognized players out of California that you could think of off the top of your head? It's to me, California, it's a multi-sport state. It's not really subject to one, like Texas is known for football, but we're good at basketball too. California is not really known for much, as far as like this is a state that all good players come from as far as football or basketball or soccer. Right. I don't know, but as far as basketball, they had some great players come out of that state. Is there some that you can think that come to mind that you could think of? Because I have quite a few that I can name off the top, but let's hear what your list is about.
Hey, Big Mike, I was hoping we would go longer on Glen Robinson because you said, you put it California and basketball as only one thing I want to talk about. And that's UCLA, John Wooden, and Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So when you think California and basketball, college basketball, that's the standard. That's by far the gold standard. It's them, and there's a huge gap. No disrespect to because they have so many great athletes. I mean, California is one of the most popular states in the union, so they produce. California and New York produce the most NBA players or pro basketball athletes. But talking about college, man, the coaching tree from John Wooden, and then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar being a college legend, and then what he did to keep the Bucks in Milwaukee, and then turn around, and being, captain, the veteran anchor for the Showtime Lakers. I mean, that's a lot of rich history right there. Just talking about UCLA and their 11 NCAA championships.
Yeah, they was balling back then.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's why I said no disrespect. But it's a gap. Yeah.
So you got in California, or they have some really good teams, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't Gonzaga out of California?
No.
Let me research that real quick.
I know they're West Coast.
Let's see, Gonzaga.
Yeah, the Bulldogs are. Because I mean, so like even USC is a football team.
Are they out of Spokane, Washington? You're right. They're out of the West Coast.
Yes, they're West Coast. They're West Coast. I knew they're West Coast, but yeah. And then, you've had even some small teams. You had Cinderella teams come out there, but USC has shown some flashes here and there. And then,
California, the University of California is not too bad.
Yeah. So I mean, you've had some solid, 18, even 20-win teams, some winning programs over there, but again, it's a great huge chasm from the legacy of UCLA, and to be honest, I'm not trying to bring up Bronny again, but it would have made more sense if he had chose UCLA. But maybe he wanted to, be closer to home, like I said earlier, and then, but my first foremost thought was just all that rich history and thoughts of John Wood and his coaching tree, which includes Bobby Knight, which includes Dean Smith. It includes oh guys, I can see the black and white photo because John Wooden coached, was it a Naval Academy? At one of the military academies, and his entire team are Hall of Fame. In that picture, they're all Hall of Fame basketball coaches. So, man, yeah.
So if you could think of some players that are probably are in the NBA currently or in the past that were born in the state, who would you put on your list if you had a top 5 best California players that were born in that state?
Oh man, I remember doing all that research before. I can't think off the top of my head because I know I know Jason Kidd and the Glove, Gary Payton, the Glove. So Jason Kidd and Gary Payton are the first two that pop off my head, and I know the new school kids are going to be like, "Oh, what about Kawhi Leonard? What about Paul George?" Because and then what about Westbrook, because they all went home. That's why they playing for the Clippers. And it's like, but they not, but they not in the Hall of Fame yet. So,
right.
So yeah, my first thought, to the Hall of Famers. So yeah. And then remembering that either they were blacktop playing against each other, or Gary Payton saw and watched Jason Kidd play. So it's like they were within the same region for them to be able to, for Gary Payton to come home and then watch and see Kidd play, at least play if they didn't play against each other, and so yeah.
And here's a couple notable ones that played lived in California. Kevin Johnson, he was one of the ones that
KJ.
Yep. Tyson Chandler. He was born in California. A
Okay.
notable one too, DeMar DeRozan. You know, and DeMar DeRozan. That's crazy. That's a
Yes.
tongue twister
Yes.
almost.
I should
uh,
have mentioned Tyson.
right, Tayshaun Prince, Detroit. You know,
Hey.
and then you got
Ooh.
also he's a commentator now, but Reggie Theus.
Yes. Yes. But I know we but I know when we covered before, I can see it. It's almost like California technically has surpassed New York. New York is the mecca, of course, right?
Facts.
The sport was built and developed out there, but and then New York has a high, uh, population density and full population. But when it comes to athletics and when it comes to basketball, you know, California's got more in Division 1, and they've got more in the NBA
Facts.
and all the other leagues too. And in Europe, if you look at the whole scope, if you don't just look at the NBA, California has, technically is surpassing New York. But if you look at, G League, semi-pro, Europe, man, it's 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 uh it's not a race anymore. The
Nah,
athletes coming out of California are for real,
nah,
especially in
facts.
basketball.
I got two more notable ones that we probably didn't mention. Klay Thompson, born in California, and last on my list is Damian Lillard, born in California. So California has some great players that really came about and did their thing in the NBA. They hey they held their own as far as being a
That's a lot of
product
future Hall
of
of Famers
basketball.
coming too. There's a lot of future Hall of Famers coming too.
Now facts,
I wonder what those numbers look like.
especially Damian Lillard, man. So
Yeah.
I could just imagine his homecoming when he gets ready to retire. Hopefully, he'll retire a Trailblazer, but that's gonna be tough, man. That's gonna be tough.
Yeah, that's almost like the discussion that, like I know part two of your question about Bronny was like, what team would pick him up? And
Yeah,
my first thought was the Cavaliers, because like, yeah, I'd like to see LeBron James, return home to the Cavs and retire, like do his farewell trip with the Cavaliers and do it with his son Bronny, part of the organization in one way or the other, one facet or the other. You know, they believe in nepotism. The head coach, and then his dad is a former head coach who's a advisor over there. So they
so do
already
you
have
think? Do you think?
They already have one father son combo with the head coach and his father over at the Cavaliers.
So do you think they'll trade Spider just to get that? Get LeBron in there? Just trade Spider to LA for LeBron straight
Man,
up?
I know I see what the Cavaliers are doing, and I respect it, but I really couldn't tell you what their priorities are.
Mm,
You know, is it to try to build another winning team, or are they just trying to compete and keep the revenue going, keep butts in the seat to keep the revenue going? You know what I'm saying? I can't put my finger on their priority. Well,
yeah.
you can do both, one and the same. One kind of usually edges the other. They've been making moves to put together a solid team and foundation and making moves, but you know, bringing King James home and Bronny up, that would be money. And then
Now,
with
facts.
money, you can buy, you can trade up in picks. With money, you can go get free agents.
And
You see
that's
what
what
I'm saying?
I had that same. Well, I wanted to have JJ from Cavs Vision on today so we could kind of discuss that. So I know he would have had some hot topics on this and hot takes rather. So we'll get him on next time. I mean, speaking of legacies, like LeBron, he is a legacy himself, and he's actually had a lot to do with how the league grew in the latter parts of the 2000s. Well, I guess like 2011. So he's been in the league for what, 11 years, 12 years, 15 years, something like that.
Yeah.
He's been in there for a long time. And this next guy, he's been in the league just about the same amount of time. He's been on some really good teams. He's had some really good cast members as far as players that played alongside him. Kevin Durant, man, what do you think his legacy is, man? He's played on, let's see, one, two, three, four different teams, and he only really excelled with two teams, in my opinion, which would be the Thunder and the Warriors. But is he tarnishing his legacy by just going back and forth and not really solidifying his legacy with one team? I mean, how far could he have went with the Thunder if he would have stayed there? Because he was really averaging about almost 30 points a game when he was with them.
Yeah.
He did that once as far as the third year with them. He started averaging about 30 points a game. What is his legacy going to be once he retires, and how people going to look at him when they think about Kevin Durant?
I mean, times have changed, you know. I know I'm glad recently we had Duncan 19 years with the Spurs,
Mm-hmm.
and then Kobe 20 years with the Lakers, and then Dirk with a record at 21 years with the Mavericks. But overall, times have changed. Even if you want to stay with a team and you do everything they ask of you and then some, there's no guarantee that you're not going to be trade bait, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think overall in the long haul, that's just going to be diminished. It's not gonna mean that much. Okay. And then I know there's been a lot of talks about, well, you know, Steph got one with him before him and then after him. So then I hear some rumblings about people saying, well, you know, he got the MVP. So it's like, well, perhaps, you know, Kerry and company brought him on. You know, of course he contributed, but then the finals MVP was like a bonus, you know, for being a hired mercenary, you know? So there's nothing wrong with being, you know, a Robert Ory. There's nothing wrong with being, you know, a gun for hire, a mercenary in the league. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And to have been hired as a mercenary and deliver, but for his sake, even I will at least hope that he can make another finals appearance. And I think he's capable of contributing and then and performing well in another finals. Because the way I'm built, you make it to the finals, that's you a conference champion, you made it to the show, that's not easy. I don't take any of that for granted, you know? And so even I say if he could make it to the finals again, that would be proof evident of his ability to, you know, contribute, be a strong foundation in the locker room to help get teams over the hump. And that's kind of the reputation he created for himself with the Warriors was like, yeah, you bring me on your team, I'll get you over the hump. Like the kind of Phil Jackson philosophy, you know what I'm saying? You know?
Yeah,
You know,
and his
team,
age,
I get you over the hump, you know?
right? His age to me seems like, being age 35, he's going to be 36 in September of this year. That's going to play a good factor of how healthy he can be, even though medicine has come a long way
It really
with
has.
recovery and being able to keep yourself sustainable for a long period of time. But still, 35 years old, still hooping at a high level, it comes with a price. You're gonna eventually get injured, and if he gets injured, probably if we say next year when he's 36 years old, does he call it quits or does he continue to play? Is my question.
Scoring champion and fundamentally sound, right? And you know, I feel like he's earned the right to call it quits whenever he decides to. As long as he wants to ball, I feel like he's earned the right to ball. And it could be with whoever team. Because his legacy has been like hired mercenary. You hire me, I can get your team over the hump. You know? So with the way he's built, his symmetry, his weight, I know he's had some lower, extremity issues. What would back in the day would have been a career-ending Achilles injuries, but he's built different, and the way he plays the game is different. And so when I say fundamentally sound, he doesn't do anything crazy or weird. When we talk with the youth right now, I'm like, oh yeah, this is Kevin and KD, this and that. I was like, KD has made a Hall of Fame career off of layups and free throws. What do you mean? He shoots from the three, he can hit the three. I was like, the three, look the way he shoots it. Look at his free throw. Let's play the tape. And I'll show him, like, look at his free throw. Now look at his three-point shot. Right? It's just a little clip and power of the same motion.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so it's layups. A dunk is a powerful layup. His mid-range is a free throw. Take the free throw line and make an arc. And that's where Kevin Durant shoots his mid-range.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a free throw. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, the film doesn't lie. Look at the shooting motion, look at the stroke. From his free throw, play it there, and then his mid-range shot. Okay, now let's look at his three-pointer. Like, he could, if Tim Duncan hadn't got it, Kevin Durant could have been, nicknamed Mr. Fundamentals, because it's as simple and clean as that. And that's why he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And that's why, and then with his wingspan and everything, it's so difficult for you to gank him or to really even, what can you do to even stop him or slow him down? So Kevin Durant at 75%, that's where I'm going with this. So Kevin Durant at 75% is still better than 75% of the league. Now, is that a man you're going to say exit left? You know what I'm saying? No. I don't think so, Big Mike.
I'm just saying, if he injured himself, that was my point. If he injured himself, say for instance he messed up his knee or Achilles. Again, same thing with Kobe. Kobe did the same thing. He's like, look, I'm not going to go through these injuries and this surgery for another year. I'm just going to go ahead and retire on top. And now to make another statement off of that, if we looked at the current players now that's up and coming, who do you think will be the replacement of Kevin Durant in that same type of mode as far as how he plays?
I mean, these young guys now are special. So, oh my goodness. I don't know. Kevin Durant just a bit different. Even just the way he's built, like a quiet assassin.
I could give you one off the top of my head, and he just came in the league this year.
Who you talking about?
Victor Wembanyama.
Oh, I was thinking that, but
that dude is the closest thing to Kevin Durant that we have right now. Nobody else is really playing like him.
If you're gonna say closest, I'm with you. Because yeah. Because think
about what Kevin Durant got from like Dirk, the one-legged fadeaway. And I can still see Wembanyama getting ready to do that, because I compared Wembanyama to Dirk prior episodes. He reminds me a lot about Dirk and Kevin Durant at the same breath, but Kevin Durant got a bit of everybody in him, and he can move the ball, dribble the ball. He's good. You know what I mean? Yeah. He can post up.
Like Kevin Durant was a little bit more refined, but then Wemby's younger, a bit younger, and then coming from Europe, very sound. My only pushback would be in that where he's closest, but not of that same vein, because his development is going someplace that Kevin Durant's, career hasn't, So I'm gonna see like Wemby being more, or at least the development of what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing is more close to the lines of him being Wemby, but more in development like a big ticket, KG style, Kevin Garnett kind of mode, but snapshot now, and then snapshot of a younger Kevin Durant. Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, I definitely see it. I mean, I was trying to get, to a Kevin Durant game, and I couldn't. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, his basketball games was sold out, dog. You know what I'm saying?
Nah. He is one of the tickets that a lot of people want to get and watch play, kind of like watching Kyrie play, LeBron play, and Kobe play when he was in the league.
I mean, he was money. I tried. I was like, I want to go see him play, and this name was like, yeah, nobody was giving up tickets. You had to like know somebody, knew somebody, and then you know what I'm saying? It was nuts. You know,
And his
you had to
career
pretty
was
much be a student to get in to see Kevin Durant. And then even now, Kevin Durant games are premium games. LeBron James games are premium games. Steph Curry's games are premium games, and Kevin Durant games are premium games. And
facts. I agree with you
there's
with
lots
that.
of reasons for that, and they don't just upgrade their ticket price for anybody. You know what I'm saying? So that's saying a lot. So that's another reason why, you know, LeBron James is going to be a player as long as he wants to play.
Facts.
Steph Curry is going to be able to play as long as he wants to play. One-legged hopping around, we're going to come pay to see it. And Kevin Durant is right there with him. With respect, he'll be able to play as long as he wants to play, and it'll be money, and it'll be a premium ticket for quite some time to come.
Gotcha. So keeping on the subject of premium tickets, back in 2010, 2011, that squad was a premium squad to watch. They shook the league up. They had 4 MVPs on that squad. Nobody really knew about it until the future came. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about the team Kevin Durant played for back then. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that season, they went 55-27, finished first in the NBA Northwest Division, and they made the Western Conference Final, which they lost to Dallas 4-1. It's not bad for a team that was full of a lot of youngsters. And let me name a couple of players that was on that squad. You had Nick Collison, which played center for them. Jeff Green, which is kind of, he was getting his feet wet. James Harden, Serge Ibaka, which Dirk made him his son. Kendrick Perkins was on that squad. Nate Robinson was on that squad. I remember this guy, Thabo Cephalosha. He was not too bad. And last but not least, that was a notable Russell Westbrook. And the funny thing about it, they didn't start Harden in none of those games. And Harden went off to go to Houston and made a name for himself. And a lot of people was wondering why they didn't start him. So him himself asked that same question: why y'all not starting me? If you're not going to start me, I'm just going to go somewhere they're going to start me. And so let's talk a little bit more about what that team could have been. I mean, they made the finals the following season.
Right?
Right, yeah, and they lost the NBA Finals to Miami Heat 4-1. They defeated some good teams on their way there. They 4-0 Dallas. Let me see. They 4-0 Dallas. Where'd they go? They 4-0 Dallas. They 4-1 the Lakers. Then they 4-2 the San Antonio Spurs and end up losing to the Miami Heat in the finals. That was a squad, man. In the 2010-2011 season, they really played well. They played against Denver, who had a squad at the time. Memphis, when they had that was called what were they calling back then? I can't remember the catchphrase they had for them. Grind City, right?
Yeah, with Zach Randolph.
Yeah, Zeke. And if it wasn't for Dallas Destiny for 2011, they probably would have made the NBA Finals.
It would have been. I really feel it would have been back to back, NBA Finals for them, and then making it that one year could have really made a difference, because the experience, right? Unless you're there in the playoffs and you can't hear yourself think. As a matter of fact, you can't have hear because it's so noisy and there's so much energy that you're like impaired. You know what I'm saying? And imagine being on the court where all that energy and sound and light is focused.
Mm-hmm.
So I think back-to-back NBA Finals, you got a little different scenario than the one and done and expecting to get it done, and then they haven't, the organization haven't managed to make it back since.
It's been tough because you lose Harden. When did they lose Harden?
But the thing with Harden is like, when he was younger, he's coming in. It's like, man, sometimes it's like we have to get out of our own way. You've got ballers. You have to let them flex. You have to find them garbage time. You have to find them matchups, right? Where you're letting a player, some other players sit out and let a younger player come up and get some real grit time, some real floor time, especially when you come to the playoffs. You have your role players. You have to be able to call them up. And I and I don't mean to insult the James Harden. We're talking about the early years of James Harden as a role player, but that's where you got to start. That's where you got to come up. So some of those struggles, imagine in hindsight, James Harden being cut loose. You know what I'm saying? Even against lesser opponents or East, because the Western Conference is just extremely highly competitive and extremely difficult.
Yeah.
If there's I grew up Eastern Conference, so love and respect there, the grit and defensive tenacity traditionally on the Eastern Conference, but in the Western Conference, it's been brutal for a very long time.
Right. And James Harden left them in 2013 and went to Houston, and that's when he flourished. Sam Presti, the executive, was responsible for putting those teams together, man. He did a great job getting them where they were. So I got to give him kudos. And the coach at the time was Scott Brooks. And Scott Brooks, I believe, if I remember correctly, he played for Orlando back in the days. He was pretty good when he played with Penny Hardaway as his backup.
Yeah.
So I can give him kudos for how he did. In the 2012-13 season, they went 60-22. Yeah. And that's not bad.
You got a player's coach. And his development and his coaching tree is solid. Right? You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's the reason why they were able to manage to do what they did, right? Without Scott, I don't really think, you can say, oh well, anybody. No, you get a certain scenario, certain people together, and you make things happen. You know what I'm saying? And I think it was a very good chemistry with this. And you had these future Hall of Famers all together, but I think the key was a lack of player leadership. If every time you have to look to the coach to resolve or this and that, at some point you have to have, a general on the floor. Amongst the players, you can all be leaders and have leadership qualities, right? But there's got to be one top dog, right? One facilitator, for everything. You have to have player leadership. And that's where there was some friction or it just wasn't working out, and that cost him. You know what I'm saying? If I focus on player leadership, cost him 2 trips to the finals and at least being one of 2 in those finals.
So explain player leadership in depth so people can understand what you mean by that.
So in the structure of a team, like now, it's like we call it the big 3, right? You got Batman, Robin, and not to be insulting, but Batgirl or something like that. So you got your big 3 and your role players. Your role players, everybody in the NBA is elite. Get to the NBA, that's a very minute fractal of a percentage to get into the NBA. Okay, so all of these are grown men, highly talented, and leaders of their own households, leaders in their own communities, and they come together, right? That's why I gave the expression you had to have a general. I know I come from a military background, but everyone has to find their niche. You have all these alphas, then everyone has to find their niche, their role. You have the role players, you have Batgirl, you have Robin, and you got to have Batman and Bruce Wayne, okay? Someone has to be the proper PR on and off the floor. So that's the kind of the way a lot of people have been able to describe and break it down. If you hear that, from someone else, Batman, Robin, Batgirl, your big 3, and then your role players, your henchmen. You call it the commissioner. What was his name for Batman? Maybe the commissioners are better than saying Batgirl. You got the commissioner of the police department who facilitated everything, right? So he would put up the bats, he would coordinate the police efforts, and he would put up the bat signal, and he coordinated everything with everyone. So that's what it's talking about, player leadership. Think about the commissioner from Batman, or even the butler. Was it Alfred?
Alfred.
Who behind the scenes, but that's more like the head coach. Alfred is more like the head coach. You know what I'm saying? Seen, but you're not really sure what all is going on or what's being done, right? Or how they're playing their role until it's all said and done. So your
Yeah,
head coach is like Alfred the Butler, yeah.
Yeah, he has the brains of the operation kind of figured out, so he just puts it all
Yeah,
together and makes sure
yeah,
everything works.
yeah.
So yeah, player leadership on the floor is one of the key things when it comes to a championship, and you got to be able to follow the person who's going to be that leader. So I can see what you're saying. There was too many Chiefs and not enough Indians when it comes to that 2010-2011
And
squad. Even though Kevin Durant was like the premium player of that whole squad. At the time, so was James Harden, but he didn't get the play time. And
yeah,
Westbrook was hooping too, but it was like who's gonna do more to work.
but there's no excuse for James Harden. Even what even what limited exposure he got, what he showed, um, garnered minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where you gonna get those minutes from? That's one thing, but I don't give him. At the time, I was saying you need to play that dude. When you when Westbrook looks for someone and is driving, pushing to the hole and left everybody behind, and he's got nobody to pass to get himself out of trouble. Well, he found himself in trouble because there's nobody to pass to. Well, he's taking it to the rim and these weird shots and all this stuff. Someone like James Harden could keep up with him.
Mm-hmm.
And whether finishing at the basket or spotting up, for the jumper or the three, James Harden was the answer, bro. And at the time, me for one, I was shouting, that's your answer right there. That's your man right there.
Yeah, he can hoop. He can hoop,
But again,
man.
with the dynamics of organization, this and that, and all it, and especially you get in the finals and win the finals. Sometimes you got so much going on, you so much steamrolling that dysfunction doesn't even matter. Nobody cares, right? Until you're losing.
Yeah.
But really, most times you cannot afford it. You have to work your way through that and grind and improve your team individually, your team and your organization to get up there and stay there. And that's when you look at the Golden State Warriors, that's what you see. That's a perfect example, right?
Of a dynasty.
Yeah, starting with Jerry West, and then the former head coach, Mark Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
tweaking and grinding, solidifying a new foundation, getting a organization that had an old strong history. They had been champions before, it had a legacy before. Restructuring and rebuilding it to create a new legacy and dynasty. That's what it takes. You got to tweak, and then now they're recognized as one of the best organizations in all the sports.
Yeah. Only if Oklahoma could have did that, man. Tonight's conversation, man, was very compelling and intriguing. I appreciate you coming on, man. We had some good conversations. Let the people know where they can find you at, my brother, so that way they can get your social media handles and probably give you a subscribe or a like or do all that stuff that we normally do.
Hey, right now, I do my speech therapy. I love YouTube. So you can find me doing commentary, doing comments, and then live commentary on YouTube at Wild DOWG 357. Again, that's Wild Dog with 2 G's 357 on YouTube. Blessings to you.
Man, blessings to you, man. And again, we always hear it on Swish for real. We love Wild Dog, man. You always come on, give us your good sports commentations, man. Your thoughts, all that stuff is good, man. We appreciate y'all, man. Have a great night. Hey, man. Peace, man. Swish for real.